It's a big show today. There's so many stories. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Trump Tyranny Tracker. It's day 270 in the Trump administration, and Olga Lautman and I, Zev Shalev, we're looking at the Trump authoritarian grab that is happening across our country, and we see it in so many ways. We have a big show tonight, 6 big stories, plus the breaking news that is all about John Bolton. So let's get into that right away. Former National Security Advisor John Bolton was indicted this morning by a federal grand jury in Maryland on 18 counts of mishandling classified information and 8 counts of unlawful transmission, also 10 counts of unlawful retention of national defense information. Prosecutors allege Bolton sent top secret materials using personal email and online accounts and sharing information with his family members, his daughter and his wife, who lacked security clearance. FBI searches of his Maryland home and D.C. office in August reportedly recovered classified documents on U.S. weapons programs, foreign intelligence, strategic defense, and communications with adversary nations. So this is a big deal. This is not the same thing as Comey and Letitia James at all.
No, I don't think so. I mean, part of it is the same thing because, Trump has vowed to seek revenge against Bolton. And he did direct, I'm sure, the Justice Department to wrap up the investigation and to move forward with it. But it is slightly different because allegedly we don't know. We'll see what the defense is, but allegedly Bolton did share classified information, did, type, I don't know who in the world would type memos on an AOL account.
It's so funny.
The story is so full of ironies because Bolton, sat there and went off on Hillary Clinton 10 million times over her use of a private server in her house. And that, if he did the same thing, he would be in a jumpsuit right now.
And here we are.
And the other irony over this is that Bolton obviously is part of the Iran-Contra and, the whole, his dream has been for the United States to attack Iran, for decades, since the 80s. And interestingly enough, it seems that it was the Iranians who hacked his emails and delivered this information to our investigators. So there's a lot to be seen. So yes, this is definitely different than Letitia James, than James Comey. Adam Schiff is going to be next. It's definitely going to be different than him and all the other people under investigation. But at the same time, I do think that, Trump did make sure that this goes through because at the same time, he's also using the Justice Department to shield his allies. And you see case after case being dropped. Pardons being issued for people who donated to him, his crypto allies. So this is like the perfect, weaponization of government and agencies.
It's almost like he's trying to prove that his own charges under the previous DOJ were politically motivated by saying that, look, I can do these politically motivated indictments myself on all the same charges because they've all, it's bank fraud. Now it's the same mishandling of classified documents. It's almost like he's trying to say, hey, look, I can do this. So that's why I was framed as well.
I don't know because he wanted to do this in 2017. He really had made it clear at the time, but he didn't know how the government works. So when he came in 2017, he thought he was going to be like Putin and, give out orders to agencies and that everyone would just comply. He used those 4 years to see exactly what went wrong to devise a plan to now make sure the agencies comply. And this is why you saw the purge of officials immediately. Just as he was sworn in, they began walking out FBI agents and officials and, various agency career servants in order for him to put people who will do his bidding. And now, as he has grabbed all the agencies at the top, now you see him, going down the line, and anyone who refuses to do an illegal order, then they get purged. So I think, had he had the chance to do this in 2017, 18, 19, trust me, he would have. But he just didn't have a full control of the agencies.
It is curious, though, that he's got the same charges that seem to have plagued him in his previous. I mean, that's maybe just coincidence, but it is interesting.
I think it's a coincidence. I think that, he ordered that Bill, whatever his name is, Pulte, to look into mortgage, issues for several people.
Right.
And I think classified documents, I mean, this started under Trump when Bolton was writing his book. Then the investigation again, temporarily calmed down. Then it started up again under Biden. I mean, this, like didn't fall out of thin air. This is several years in the making.
And insiders in the Justice Department say that this was deliberately compartmentalized. It was insulated from main justice. And that means that the main department decision makers did not necessarily get involved in the day-to-day running of this particular case. And that's very different from what's going on with Comey and Letitia James, where there has been, heavy political influence, obviously, for all three of these. But there was also but there's also a U.S. attorney there that's just been appointed by the president who's barely competent to do the job. So there are differences there. It's interesting that Abby Lowell is representing Bolton. He's a very, very sharp lawyer. They'll get some stuff done, but it's unclear if this will go to trial, although I suspect it will. Yeah. Here's the rest of the stories in the Trump Tourney Tracker today, and it begins with a really interesting one. It's a counterpoint to the Bolton story, really. U.S. Attorney Todd Gilbert resigned today after refusing direct orders from the Trump administration to pursue what he called baseless criminal charges tied to the long-closed Russia investigation. Justice Department officials pressured Gilbert to open a grand jury probe specifically targeting former FBI and intelligence officials, the very people who investigated Trump's 2016 campaign connections to Russia. When Gilbert resisted what he viewed as politicizing the case, he was forced out of his position. This is a very big story, and it ties directly into what you've been doing in terms of the work at Unmasking Russia about the 2016 election. This is a very important move.
Yeah, and you see anyone who touched the Russia investigation, anyone who touched the classified documents investigation, anyone who touched the insurrection investigation. Now Trump is putting pressure on anyone who looked into Trump's extortion of Ukraine with that, call in 2019 for Zelensky to find, fabricate some documents on Biden and Hunter Biden. All these people are under, Trump's crosshairs, and he's pushing, really. He wants what's his name, Brennan, the former CIA director. He wants all of them. I mean, they have a list. We don't need to imagine what the list is, because Kash Patel had written a nice book about this and included the dozens and dozens of people. They want anyone involved with Hurricane Crossfire, which was the investigation, a part of the Russia investigation. And that's it. And like I said, I mean, we started this, February? I said that once Trump seizes the agencies, you will see him going after everyone. And sure enough, we are now in, October? 3 weeks, 3 indictments. Stay tuned. There are going to be indictments. It's going to only snowball now. And you're going to see one after another, and it's not going to stop with government officials. It's going to carry on into Soros Foundation, Ford Foundation, Indivisible, Act Blue, and they're going to do everything to try to dismantle the Democratic Party.
What is the replacement for Gilbert? Has a person been announced yet for that replacement? And it's going to be hard to find someone, and presumably it's not going to be an easy hire.
He has plenty of sycophants around him,
Yeah.
and not that they need experience. He could put his shoe polisher there
Right.
and say, "Go,
But
go,
no career
go."
prosecutor is going to want that job.
No,
I mean, it's
absolutely
like,
not.
yeah,
I mean, look at the other lawyer, Lindsay, handling Comey and
yeah, Hannigan.
James. I mean, she is what, an insurance lawyer? Can you can you imagine
Yeah.
sending an insurance lawyer? She's never seen a grand jury in her life,
It
and
almost sounds
this
like a
is.
scene from a movie, right? It sounds so
Yeah,
ridiculous, you know?
he has so many sycophants. They don't
Yeah.
need to really have a law degree. They could, do anything, and he'll just throw them in to handle this. The good thing is, for now, the courts are holding for now. So I'm sure that, a lot of these cases will get thrown out. We'll see what happens with the Bolton. I do think there's enough
Yeah.
meat there for them to
I agree. I
go
think that
forward.
might go forward. Turning to one of your favorite topics here, which is Flock. Senator Ron
Mm.
Wyden revealed that ICE, the Secret Service, and the Navy's criminal division all accessed Flock's AI-powered network of tens of thousands of cameras tracking vehicles nationwide. Homeland Security Investigations, the agency leading Trump's deportation campaign, used this system nearly 200 times as Flock expanded the access to multiple federal agencies under what it called a pilot program. This means federal law enforcement gained warrantless access to a private surveillance network capable of tracking vehicle movements across the entire country. And that's just the beginning of the surveillance that they're doing.
Yeah, and it was before only ICE and Border Patrol were handling this, and now you see that this is expanding. And again, I really hope people understand that whether it's Flock, whether it's our social security information, all of this is for us. Immigrants are the test case. This is they're being tested on immigrants, and this will expand to us. They already started expanding it. They immediately started putting together, and building a surveillance state in the U.S. Again, immediately. These people came prepared. This time, Trump was not going to make the mistake of 2017 where he walked in and didn't know nothing. Here, they had 4 years to prepare and to have everything, every executive order, every single move planned out and how they will enact it. And this is why you saw he signed, got sworn in on January 20th. And by late afternoon, they started immediately dismantling the government. They sent Elon Musk and his operatives to start seizing data from every agency. They started purging people. I mean, they knew what they were doing. They came with a fully prepared map of
They
how they're
did.
going to carry this out.
Project 2025 was the name. They
Yeah.
also have recently acquired access to a system that allows them to track people's phones, basically, their locations based on phones, which again applies to all Americans. Don't be deceived into just thinking this is just going to be for deportations. There's a lot of people who want that access to that your location, and your government will know where you are all the time if you're carrying your cell phone. It's quite frightening.
It's even worse. I wrote an article last month, or August or last month. These weeks and months go by. It's like a weird time warp. But I wrote an article, either last month or in August. They are acquiring Pegasus, which not only can track your phone, the thing can freaking crawl into your phone, turn your camera on, watch everything you're doing, listen to everything, go into Signal, go into WhatsApp, go into everything, and like in real time, see what's happening.
Yeah.
I think it's Graphite by Pegasus,
Yeah.
which basically is the same one, or was Pegasus the first one?
Pegasus was the
The
first one, I think, but you can't on these devices. You can't, there's no clicking on any links or anything now. These things
No,
is happening visibly. They're not. You wouldn't know that they've been accessed on your computer or your phone.
yeah. So
Mm.
anyone who has an iPhone, turn on what is that mode? Lockdown mode.
Lockdown mode.
Turn on lockdown mode, because lockdown mode was specifically developed for to combat Pegasus. So at least maybe it'll help. I don't
Yeah,
know.
and so just while we're on the topic of phones, people are thinking about what to do this weekend for the No Kings protest. It's really not advisable to bring a phone, your regular phone, unless you need to, unless you feel like you really need to. You could probably get away without bringing your phone to the protest, unless you don't mind. I mean, unless you just don't mind, the people know that you're there. But they will likely be swooping all the information of who's at those events because they can. They can just get all that information now. It's not that difficult for them.
I wouldn't worry as much, honestly, about bringing the phone unless you really have sensitive communications, with sources or, a journalist or, only because when there are that many people, here's a cool trick. You're gonna have so many cell numbers pinging off a tower that they won't be able to. I mean, they will have facial recognition programs so they can, swipe through crowds and scan faces and then compile a list of people. But frankly, look, all their threats are for fear mongering. This is what dictators do. They fear mongers. They don't want you to go out. And the way to push back is to go out. If you do bring your phone, definitely record everything. Be smart, stay away from any kind of provocations. Do not do anything because they will be looking into any incident, to any incident to try to escalate. If they don't even send their own Proud Boys and Oath Keepers and others, to attempt to. But the bottom line is, as I always say, there's more of us than them. And, if we stay united, what are they gonna do? They're gonna what? Go arrest 5 million people in America? I mean,
Yeah,
seriously. Like,
I mean, I
what
think
are they gonna do?
the idea behind protecting you're not bringing your phone is, you might have sensitive things on your phone, you might have private things on your phone, you might get arrested for something, or someone might confiscate your phone. You probably don't want that out there. You don't want them looking through it unless there's nothing on there, which of course,
Yeah, if
possible.
there's nothing on there, if it's regular, the only thing I would advise is if you do bring your phone, turn off the biometrics, so they can't get into your phone. Because, right now, like if you have your face thing, because it's just easy to get into, all they have to do is swipe your phone in front of your face and it
Right.
unlocks.
And they
Um,
can do that. They're allowed to do that.
Yeah, so that's the only thing. If you have sensitive information or feel uncomfortable, get a burner phone, just not pay cash for it, not on
Yeah.
your credit card.
Pay cash for it. And of course, burner phones, you got to be really careful with because you can't associate them with anything related to your
No,
personal
no, no.
accounts. You
Burner
can't even carry
phone.
them with your regular phone. They'll track the movements of those things if they need to. So it's really got to be a separate phone that you only use on location. Like don't turn it on at home and get it set up at home because that'll defeat the purpose.
But again, that's overthinking. I mean, if you're working with sources, if you're working, on sensitive investigations, if have sources in other countries that you're trying to protect, then yes, you have to take these precautions. If you're going to do your duty, which is part of the Constitution and the First Amendment, and go out to a protest, frankly, I would not overthink it. I mean, unless you're planning something, then, don't go and actually don't plan. But, if you just want to step out, like I am going this week and I'm taking my phone. I don't give a fuck. I mean, I'm allowed to be outside. I'm not going to do anything provocative. But if I want to stand there with a plaque, I'll stand there with a plaque,
And peaceful
and that's it.
protesting is protected under the Constitution. That has not changed. It's just the way it is in America. You're allowed to do peaceful protests. You're not allowed to do some things. You can't, block traffic. You can't do a lot of
No.
things. But you can peacefully protest. It's part of what your rights are. And you shouldn't be afraid of doing that at all.
Yeah, do not obey in advance. And frankly, that bothers me so much because my saying is do not obey, period. Not in advance, not after the fact, not ever. Do
Yeah.
not obey. I mean, use your, people are smart, they're savvy. And I mean, it looks like it's going to be, if it's like the last No Kings protest, I'm sure it's going to be family members and it's going to be nice and light and, and that's it. So
And there will be
don't,
many, many more people out. There's a lot more protests and a lot more people expected, and they are expecting it.
yeah, yeah.
More than 5
And
million people.
And that's why I say stronger in numbers because, like with Russia, the reason their movements got crushed is one, they're like sheep, the Russians. I mean, I'm sorry, they're like sheep. They will tolerate a lot. Right now, there's no internet in Russia. They have fuel. Yeah, they've cut off internet
Why
in
did
a
they cut
lot
off
of
internet?
yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I know that my mom has been trying to reach my grandmother, and the last that she heard, they said they just have no access to internet. Um, so they've cut off internet. They started in August, and it's just been increasingly worse and worse to the point that now they just have complete internet blockage. Even VPNs are being jammed. There are gas lines, and they're not going to say a word. They're like whatever. They're like sheep. But in Moscow, when we saw the protest, and you see people come out, and then you see the freaking Oman police come out, or dressed in black and helmets and everything. It looks intimidating and scary, but that is because it's 10,000 people who came out. Moscow is a city of 1 million. If 200,000 people came out, they would freaking stomp on these freaking thugs, without even noticing. Like these people wouldn't even be in their way. It's just the point that there's not enough. And that's why I say, if you're going out, there's 200,000 people. I mean, the chances of them to go, look, what are they going to do? Go through every single protest in your town, protester and phone in your town? And if there are 5, 6 million people who come out as is planned, it might even be more. Are they going to arrest all 6 million people?
Is there a greater risk in red states than there are in blue states?
I don't think so because I think, and I think wherever you are, as long as you're following the law, you just need to follow the law. Make sure that everything is recorded, every kind of interaction, because a lot of the things that we've seen has, like, the pushback has come because people are recording it, uploading it online, or live streaming it, and then you have, the rest of the country enraged. It gets onto the news, and then you start seeing it being reversed. So I don't think, there's going to be more danger. I mean, frankly, if you go protest here in New York, NYPD's nuts. I mean, we're a blue state and they freaking are crazy. But if you protest and you're there and you're doing nothing violent, you're not breaking any laws, you're fine. We're protected under this right. And we shouldn't give them that, that fear, allow them to give us that fear and stop doing this. So.
Absolutely. Do not obey in advance. I like that. Or do not obey at all. It's a good one.
Yeah, no, I can't stand in advance. Like, don't obey, period. Like, don't obey. There's never a reason to obey to anything a fascist regime is doing, ever.
To our next story, Trump officials are moving to overhaul the IRS to enable criminal investigations of liberal donors and nonprofits, including George Soros and his affiliates. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and advisor Gary Shapley plan to sideline agency lawyers and install loyalists at the IRS's criminal division to pursue politically chosen targets under the guise of terrorism financing investigations. This would weaponize the tax collection agency, obviously, to prosecute political opponents. It's not the first time it's happened in U.S. history, but this is unbelievable. Going after left-leaning financial groups like this to call them terrorist funding is unbelievable.
This is Russia. Welcome to Russia, because this is exactly how they got rid of opposition. And again, that's why I say it's so important to push back, because if you sleep through this, you're going to wake up in a country that you don't recognize. That's why you have to push back every single step of the way, no matter how big, how small. Because this is what happened in Russia in 2002. They, enacted a countering terrorism law. And from there, they used, the law was so broad and so ridiculous, and they used this law to basically start putting, silencing organizations and any kind of independent media and whatnot. And then by 2012, after there were huge protests in 2011, um, they enacted the Foreign Agents Law in 2012, and they expanded it even more to the point that literally, memorial who was documenting Stalin's war crimes and Stalin's mass murder, because not only did he murder upwards of 7 million in Ukraine in the Holodomor genocide, but he also murdered a lot of Russians. And they were putting together, like, they're I guess the equivalent of the Holocaust Museum, in DC. They were putting together, gathering facts, historical analysis, everything. They were labeled a terrorist organization. So this is why, we need to push back on this, because they will use laws, skew laws. And I mean, you see the language coming out that every single person coming here is coming out this weekend as un-American, that we're
Unbelievable.
terrorists, that we, are Hamas. Are you kidding? I I don't support Hamas, so that's why it's so important to push back against this now. Because
Absolutely.
if you sleep through in a year, you're going to be like, what? You'll be on a cell phone and have thugs come to you and say, who are you talking to? What are you doing? Come with me for questioning. And you'll be like, wait, how did that happen? What country
Yeah.
am I in?
I mean, the urgency is really underlined. This particular protest on Saturday is very important because it is the only time we'll have, I think, to really push back before the authoritarian grab gets even more severe, because they're moving at a breakneck speed in its consolidating power. To our fifth story, Admiral Alvin Halsey, head of the U.S. Southern Command, is abruptly retiring after less than a year in the post amid Trump's escalating military strikes on alleged drug traffickers near Venezuela. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth reportedly lost confidence in Halsey after the admiral questioned the legality and scope of military operations that have killed nearly 30 people since September. A top military officer who asked whether these strikes were legal is basically being forced out for doing so. And that is, of course, what every soldier needs to do when they're encountering orders that are illegal.
Yep. I just want to answer. Someone said it's time for an uprising and not just pushing back. Um, I don't think we need to do an uprising, because that again feeds into them. But a national strike is perfectly fine. We cannot go to work and not buy anything and not do anything. I mean, there are many ways to push back. Again, with you dissent without breaking any laws, and what are you gonna do? Get arrested because you don't want to spend money? you know?
Hopefully not.
Because you shut down all the
Yeah.
businesses. I mean, there are a lot of tools in the kit. So it's not just, from here to anarchy. It has to be like using every tool available, using your state and local officials, particularly if you're in purple states and blue states, because there you can really, you have them more on your side, and that's it. Now to the Venezuela, you have Trump carrying out extrajudicial killings. The guy is taking Americans into another war. I actually asked the question, I think, what was it, a month and a half ago? I was like,
Yeah.
they're sending so much military power. This does not look like, drug cartels. We've already killed Colombians, allegedly. The Colombian president came out and said that, one of the boats that was bombed were Colombian citizens on it from Colombia. So here you have Trump really preparing this war. And I can't wait to see what MAGA says about this, because, with no more wars, exactly, I was going to get to the oil part. No more wars, and you have Trump preparing this war. And what it looks like, by all means, is regime change, and that we're going to have boots on the ground, because Venezuela, for anyone who thinks that Trump is going to just, bomb a few things and everything is done, Venezuela is not that kind of country. I mean, if you need to do a regime change, you need boots on the ground. And then you're going to have to deal with Cubans who are propping up Venezuela, plus the Venezuelan military, plus all the guerrillas, plus the cartels. I mean, this will be a bloodbath for Americans. And we don't even know what it's for. He had not advised us. He has not spoken with Congress. He has gotten no authorization. He is ordering his military people to just carry out killings, just which
invade
is
a
again.
country and just kill people. Basically, that's what
And
he's.
I think he wants to kill Maduro on top of it. I think regime change includes assassinating a leader of a country. Now, mind you, I can't stand Maduro. This is, a Russian state client, Venezuela. But this is not being done for any of the right reasons. You have, the military, clearly, he is not agreeing with this because he's stepping down because he doesn't want to take illegal orders.
Well, because
And
he
when
comes culpable. He's a murderer, and his soldiers are all asking the same questions. So of course he's got to be asking those questions.
Exactly. And the thing is that, when it comes to our military members, they get orders and then they have a decision. If they think it's legal, they will carry out or they'll consult with, the military lawyers, get consultation that they're acting within the law. If it's not legal, then they resign because they cannot carry out the duties of the president. Here we have a situation very clearly that the guy does not feel comfortable with what is happening, that there's no evidence that these are drug cartel boats, as Trump is telling us. First of all, one of the boats, I was told, wouldn't even make it to America. That it's a specific boat that is basically a human smuggling boat to move people from Venezuela to another island. That it just, wouldn't make it all the way here. These aren't the drug boats that that have the length and speed and can make it to the U.S. And that's it. And on top of it, I actually, right before I came on this, I asked on Twitter, are we doing this for oil? Is this we're going to endanger our military for what? For oil?
We've
Because
done it
Trump,
before.
yeah, but not like this. Trump, if you remember, with Iraq, which was horrific, and at least with Iraq, they attempted to give some kind of a pretense, like with WMDs. Here, they're not even bothering to give any explanation. They're just murdering people in international waters, which is against international law. And Trump very clearly said a million times, "Oh, we should have seized the oil fields in Iraq. Why did we go there if we didn't seize the oil fields?"
Right.
So, is this what we're
And
doing?
Libya. Look, it's also what you're pointing out about the guerrillas and the armies in that region. This is going to be a potential quagmire for the U.S. military that is going to bog us down for many, many years. This isn't necessarily a 3-day conquest or anything like that. It's going to be very,
Maybe
very
he's like
complicated.
Putin. He thinks that, his 3-day special operation, like
Yeah,
Putin thought Ukraine was. No, and what bothers me more as I keep, because, I'm like a documenter and I just document, look for patterns. What bothers me more, and I discussed it on my show this morning with Julie, is from the patterns I'm seeing, this all escalated after the Putin-Trump summit in August. This is when we started moving military equipment. Now, and then we'll get back to the next story, but very quickly, you have August. Trump invites a war criminal here, rolls out the red carpet for him. They disappear into the beast for 10 minutes. We don't know what was said. There's no translators, no notes, nothing. Suddenly, Trump starts moving on to Venezuela, which is the client state of Russia. Russia starts escalating against NATO to the point that we now just last week had little green men floating around Estonia's border. And China's moving into and doing exercises around Taiwan. And this feels all coordinated
it does.
because I will tell you, I have been warning European officials for a long time, and there was a report that just came out last month that China and Russia might coordinate where Russia attacks Europe and attacks NATO countries, and China simultaneously invades Taiwan.
And
And
if
here you
we
have Trump. in Venezuela.
Yeah, exactly. What a difficult time that would be for the U.S. military to respond to those three fronts if they were to respond at all. We don't even know if they would. But to have Venezuela as a quagmire that you're now stuck in, you're pouring your military resources there, pulling them out of Europe already for that purpose. It's not a tenable situation for America. It's not a very strong position for us to be going into a conflict like this that will potentially be a global conflict. Real challenging times. And America may not be there to support Europe in the way that they are anticipating. And then moving to our final story today, U.S. Capitol Police are investigating after a U.S. flag with a swastika was found inside the office of Republican Representative Dave Taylor of Ohio. The altered flag was photographed behind a staffer during a virtual meeting. This comes amid revelations of Nazi admiration and racist slurs in private chats among young Republican leaders. A swastika on an American flag displayed in a congressional office is under investigation now, but it's quite remarkable that this was caught.
What's remarkable is I think that the majority of this country doesn't understand that we have a Nazi regime. And I don't say this very lightly. I actually don't like to make Nazi comparisons. But in this case, you have, besides God knows how many people who are Nazi sympathizers within, the weaponization agency and Department of Justice, Ed Martin, who headlined an event for Nazi, and several agencies, you have Nazi sympathizers embedded in. You have the young Republicans who came out with their vile, disgusting, filthy, gas chamber comments. And unlike J.D. Vance and CNN, uh, wants us to believe that these are college kids. First
Yes,
of
no.
all, if I had a college kid, my son's younger, and he ever said this, his head would be against the wall. So I'm not sure exactly where this is. Oh, these are kids. This
Yeah,
is what
those are
they're
not
adding,
appropriate, obviously.
drinking, partying, maybe even trying weed. That's what college kids do. Not joking, speaking about gas chambers and raping people until they commit suicide and calling black people monkeys. This is not college chatter. And second of all, these people are 40, 30 something years old.
Yeah.
I mean, at what point do Americans or Republicans think, like what is considered a college kid versus a grown man? One is a state senator. So you had that. And then on top of it, you had our Department of Homeland Security, the Border Patrol, put out a video on Facebook with an old Michael Jackson song that he then rewrote because of the backlash it caused that says, "Jew me, sue me," and then something, "kike me." So you have a bunch of racial slurs, and this is being used. I don't know how Border Patrol dug up this song, but they found not the corrected version of the song, but the
The original
original
version of the
version,
song. Wow. You
and put
know,
it on Facebook. And then, sorry, and the last
mm,
thing,
mm,
you have our Department of Homeland Security who put remigrate. Remigrate is rooted in neo-Nazi ideology, and this is what all the fascist parties across Europe are using to get all brown, anyone who's not a white European, to get them out of the country and to bring back ethnic, whatever, Europeans.
and when you go to Twitter these days, or X, there's so much anti-Semitic content there, and it's specifically anti-Israel content. But it's being very confused amongst most people's minds. A lot of people think Israel is Jewish state. All Jews are thinking the same way. Of course, it's not the case at all. Bibi Netanyahu is Bibi Netanyahu, and the Jews in the right wing of that political spectrum are supporting him. But most Israelis do not support him. Equally, in the United States, there is not a lot of support for Bibi Netanyahu amongst American Jews, but we are seeing a lot of anti-Semitism increases because of this sort of generalization against Jews that's happening, as being responsible for what's going on in Gaza, and also being responsible, for other sort of Zionist or nationalistic thinking. That's not the case for all Jews, and yet at the same time, you've got this Nazi thing growing into the GOP. That is not a good combination of factors.
No, and this started before Gaza. Let's get this straight. This started under Trump 1.0 when you had him not denounce David Duke, who's a Nazi, when he flirted with neo-Nazis who were supporting him, when we had Charlottesville, and he said, well, there are people on both sides who are bad, as these people walked and chanted, Jews won't replace us. And I mean, these are white supremacist neo Nazis, and that's it. And then during the campaign, you had him invite Nick Fuentes to Mar a Lago. So they have been flirting with this because this is part of their base. I mean, they can't deny it. This is part of their base. This is the Jack Posobiec and the, others who some of them now are pro-Israel. But I mean, we saw in 2017. I mean, I remember after Trump came into office, I'm in Staten Island, and we had a few incidents where synagogues had swastikas painted on them. The hate crimes for Jews went up significantly during 2017. So the fact, but this is the case with anti-Semitism. Now it's Gaza that they use it, and unfortunately, many people conflate the two because, again, the Netanyahu regime, which I despise, has absolutely nothing to do with being Jewish. Like, this, two different things. You can criticize. And this goes for the far right Jews, who say, if you're criticizing Netanyahu, you're criticizing the Israeli state. No, you're not. You can easily criticize Netanyahu and say that that does not apply to Israeli people who are living there and that they should not be slaughtered, nor should Palestinians be slaughtered. But the bottom line is we have really a Nazi regime in the making. And they are not only flirting like they did with the first time, but they are now, I mean, remigrate. Is this what our department, this is what we're paying for, by the way. This is our tax money paying for them to spew ethnic cleansing, neo-Nazi policies.
And it's really interesting, there's a smaller percentage of American Jews that are connected to Chabad and Lubavitch, which is really, far more adhered to in Russia, and also supporters of Bibi Netanyahu. You can draw a direct line from Putin to Bibi Netanyahu to Chabad and Lubavitch. You can.
But again, I mean, it's like here, you have Trump supporters, you have, Democrats. Um, I know people who are from the old Soviet Union who support Netanyahu. I know a lot of people from the Soviet Union tied to Chabad who despise Netanyahu. So you can and you can't. I mean, it
You
depends.
can't generalize about the political positioning of all of them, but you look at their support for even Trump. A lot of Chabad Lubavitch supporters for Trump. He went to see the rabbi or the rabbi's grave last year. I mean, there's a lot to show that there's connections between this dictatorial trio and Chabad and Lubavitch. But most American Jews are not adherents to that part of the Jewish religion. There's sort of much more liberal Jews, and 70% of American Jews are that, and yet they will be the targets. The 70% who are liberal will be the target. If anything happens, if it starts escalating in the way things could escalate the way they did in Nazi Germany. So, no one's trying to be frightening here or scaring people, but it's an important issue for people to start to understand and to tackle.
And here, it's if it was, I mean, it's not Judge Jews who it's going to escalate against.
Right.
I mean, Remigrate right now is being used to cleanse U.S. out of all brown people and black people. So this is the purpose of their Remigrate. So, they're using it to go after Latinos, to go after, anyone they don't, Indians. I mean, I've seen, my God, how many
LGBTQ as well.
LGBTQ, trans, ever. So, I mean, it's to go after anyone who doesn't fit in their, make America great agenda. And I mean, if you see even the photos used by Department of Homeland Security, I mean, even just the aesthetic of the photos, I mean, this is not normal. None of this is normal. And I don't think the media doesn't want to address it because heaven forbid you say the word fascist. I mean, if you have Department of Homeland Security putting up border patrol, showing off, come join us, using Jew me and, kike me, which are slurs. If you have a congressman staffer sitting on a video call with an American flag and a swastika embedded in the American flag at our Capitol. This isn't some random office. He wasn't home. This is our Capitol. And this guy, the whatever his name, Congressman Taylor, can investigate all he wants. I don't know how he's a congressman and didn't notice, well, they haven't been at work for 4 weeks because they're on vacation. But I mean, how do you not notice an American flag with a neo-Nazi, with a swastika embedded smack in the middle of it?
No, that's not an accident.
Well, then
It's a
you
really
have this chat, the chat. I mean, that speaks for itself.
There's Nazis everywhere. There's, and who would have thought that just a few years ago that we would have allowed Nazis into the government on any level or the governing party in any level. But here we are. So, anything can happen and everyone should be cautious and people should start thinking about this issue. It's a big one. That is the Trump Tyranny Tracker, a bumper edition today. We've gone much longer than normal, but
Yes.
been a lot of news and it's been worth it as well, covering the Bolton indictment earlier on. Olga, what have you got coming up at Unmasking Russia that you want people to know about?
I'm trying to think. Nothing right now.
Oh, that's unusual. You're always full of
No,
stuff.
I am. I still have to put out an article tomorrow. I'll finally get to focus and finish the article comparing the directive that Trump signed to use all agencies to go after quote unquote Antifa and domestic terrorists. Comparing it to Russia's counterterrorism
That's gonna be really
text
interesting.
of the law. And that's it. So I need to finish that up, and I have a few things that I'm trying to put together, but this week has been so crazy that I can't keep up.
I know it has been a really busy week. Over at Narativ.org, I'll be posting in the near future a little thing about the Bolton indictment and what it really means. And plus, there's some really interesting stories on there that cover the gamut of everything that's going on in the news. I also can't think of what's come to mind, but there's so much on there. So please check it out at Narativ.org, Narativ.org, and please subscribe to the Trump Tyranny Tracker.substack.com. That's where you can find Olga Lautman's great Trump Tyranny Tracker.
Narativ.org.
Thank you.
Also, please, everyone on here, call Speaker Johnson and force him to swear in the Congresswoman, because, I wrote an article about this, and yes, partly it's about Epstein. She's the 218th vote, but it takes it to another level, because this is not just about blocking the 218th vote. This is about refusing to seat a duly elected, member of Congress, leaving her constituents without. And if they're playing around right now and not seating an elected congresswoman, she was certified last month. We're like, what are we doing here? God forbid, because this can trickle to states, and a few Republican states had tested this out, but it could get to a point that it's not only going to be in Congress, but it could get onto the local and state levels that, a Democrat wins a race and then they don't feel like seating the person and swearing them in. So we, again, need to really push, because this is way, way bigger than the Epstein. And yes, it is a test case for 2026. This is way, way bigger than Epstein. This is about Johnson refusing to swear in. The woman can't hire staffers. She's been sitting there. Her office, she can't perform.
He's basically denying an election victory there, and he can't do that. The people need representation. They've elected their representative, and they need to be seated. That's democracy, as it turns out. Thanks for being here, everybody. We'll see you again on Tuesday for the Trump Tyranny Tracker. On Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. is our new time slot, and we look forward to seeing you then. Have a great evening, Olga, and have a great
weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye.